In Cumberland, Rhode Island, there's a figure parents didn't just invent. In fact, parents went around and warned their kids not to stay out late into the woods. The man was burned, had disfigured hands, and he lived alone. Some say he inspired the Freddy Krueger movie, but here he was known as Fingernail Freddy and sometimes Hotshot Charlie. I'm Sean.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Weirder After Dark. I remember doing our collaboration with Slashback Cinema, and Kathy, during that, you mentioned something really interesting. We were talking about movies that terrified us.
Yes.
What was that movie?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Ah, so you're not a Freddy Krueger fan?
I'm not.
Chris, what about you?
They're a riot. Come on. As a child, they were scary, but right now they're just straight comedy.
I remember watching like the Friday the 13th movies, Halloween movies as a kid, being scared and rewatching them as an adult or even as a teenager and thinking like, oh my God, this is so insane. This is so stupid. This is ridiculous. Even today, I still can't bring myself to watch the movies because he visually scares me. And
even the fedora?
Even the fedora. Yeah, even the fedora. Like, there's just something about that actor. Like, I've seen him in other movies, and he's just a great actor, but there's just something about the Freddy Krueger character that terrifies me. And it's almost like I'm back to being like 5 years old again. And like...
In that headspace?
In that headspace, yeah. I can't get out of it.
So, I love you. How much trauma are we going to need to unpack knowing now that there's a Freddy Krueger type character in New England? How are we feeling going into this?
I'm not feeling okay.
Well, I promise you, we're going to scare you probably a little bit along the way, but we're going to leave today's episode in a good headspace.
Okay.
Until you go to sleep tonight. I want to give kind of like a quick recap for any of our listeners who might not have watched Nightmare on Elm Street. Going to be really quick. And Kathy, along the way, as we unpack this, I want you to stop us anytime you're like, it's scary. Don't like
stop.
that. Please stop.
Stop. I don't like any of this right now.
Already. Stop. So Freddy Krueger, he begins as a child murderer dubbed the Springwood Slasher, who ends up killing with this like glove he made with sharpened blades. By the movie, murdered 20 children before he ultimately ends up getting caught. How do you feel about 20 children deaths? Are those rookie numbers? Is that a lot?
That is a lot. Rookie numbers?
Not rookie numbers.
That is horrible.
Let's get him on a death. Okay. Solid numbers,
That is
Freddy.
an evil man.
Well, anyway, somehow, which is crazy, the movie then sells it that Freddy gets like convicted, but he gets off the charges because someone just like didn't sign like one of the reports correctly, which is just, it doesn't really add up.
Come on, but you have to have something happen so that
the
following events can happen.
Yeah, so he gets away with killing 20 children because of a missing signature, apparently, which, wow. I think that right there just unlocks like fear one. They're building this like fear around someone can kill 20 people and just get away with it.
Walk
the legal
away.
system can't hold people accountable. But here's the cool part. The parents decide that they're going to get their own version of justice. They don't say exactly what happened to Freddy, but apparently they like trap him in like a boiler room where he used to like take the children to kill them. And they just boil him to death, I guess.
Yeah, I think in some of the later Freddy Krueger movies, you end up, I think it's called like the Dreamscape. They reenact.
Oh, what happened to him?
What happened to him in like the boiler room, and the whole town's like walking with like pitchforks and torches and set him on fire.
Okay. All right. Well, set him on fire or boil him, whatever happens.
It is, yeah.
The man gets like boiled alive and he has burn scars all over his body. Years later, they think he's dead. Come to find out he's not dead. He's now reborn as a fedora-wearing dream demon who can like
so ridiculous.
Shape shifts, manipulates like time in your dreams. He can control your dreams. But the real brutal part is, I guess, the injuries that you suffer in the dream, they're manifesting real time in reality. So pretty terrifying, I guess. like kind of funny, but also like if it was real, terrifying.
I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
This is a nervous
He's going
laugh.
to get me.
I think it's like an interesting take because it's just like, okay, the justice system can't save these children. The parents can't save these children.
Right. Because
and then when you dream,
it's the teenagers that he's attacking are the children of the parents
who killed him. Yeah. What's the most terrifying part for you, Kathy?
It's basically just the idea that, you know, it's in your dreams. So your only option is to never sleep. And that's impossible, as shown in the movie when someone tries to not fall asleep. Like, you eventually will fall asleep and he will find you.
Yeah, there's something about that space in between awake and dreaming that's a little bit unnerving to begin with. And to know that something can invade that space, it makes you think twice about going to bed that night.
And I think we can all agree that there's no way that it's actually true or could be even based off some type of real event or inspired by something real, right?
Well, thank God.
I think the idea that like someone's coming into your dreams and killing you in your sleep, that part's not real.
What if I told you we're going to share some stories about people dying in their sleep?
Okay.
Now, Kathy,
I'm scared. Stop.
As a psychotherapist who helps people work through their trauma, I've got a couple of words I want to share with you.
Okay.
1, 2,
No,
3,
why? You're
4.
horrible. That's so mean. That's so mean.
All right.
That's not nice. You're a mean man.
Today, we're going to traumatize Kathy, but we are going to be diving into some legends, specifically around Fingernail Freddy and Hot Shot Charlie. Stories that some, as we are leading to believe, are the backbone to the Freddy Krueger story. And you don't have to thank me, Kathy. One of the members of the gang.
I know. I was sitting here thinking that this was submitted as a story idea from one of our listeners, and I'm sitting here as you're reading this thinking to myself, like, I need to acknowledge this person because I know we've discussed this, and you should know as a listener, I don't like Freddy Krueger, so I'm taking this personally.
Well, Reno Sin Nombre, you may be Kathy's least favorite listener, but you are now my favorite gang member. So thank you for finding this story.
What did I ever do to you?
Yeah, you were having a convo with this person a couple days ago.
I know.
Thank you. Anyways, enough lollygalling. Let's dive in. Let's get to the story. Our story takes place in the most northeastern corner of Rhode Island, right where the state borders with Massachusetts. It's there that the town Cumberland sits, about 10 miles north of Providence, an area made up of a mix of suburban neighborhoods and rural woodland. One of Cumberland's most well-known areas is called Diamond Hill. It's a heavily wooded region, crisscrossing with hiking trails, mountain biking paths, snowshoeing routes, and at one point, there was even a small ski hill in the area. But at the center of Diamond Hill lies the Diamond Hill Reservoir, which was built in 1887 to supply Pawtucket with drinking water. It's a quiet, sprawling body of water surrounded by forest on all sides. Along the northwestern shores of the reservoir sits the Sister of Mercy's Catholic Women's School, which isn't it just so funny? Why are there Catholic schools everywhere? This is my third story that somewhere there's a woman's Catholic school. I don't know what they're doing over there.
Bad stuff is happening over there.
Summoning the devil? I don't know. I was raised Catholic. I don't know what's going on. But that's on the northwestern shore. And then across the reservoir on the northeastern shore, there's actually a camp called Camp Curana, and this is a Catholic summer camp for children. So a lot of Catholicism happening there, which I guess is going to be the breeding ground for demons.
Makes sense.
The most interesting thing about this area isn't the school or the camp. It's the legends that haunt these woods. And there's two different stories. Let's start with Fingernail Freddy. Some version of Freddy's story claim that he was once a real man, specifically a hermit who lived deep in the woods surrounding the Diamond Hill Reservoir. According to the legend, Freddy chose isolation because of his hatred specifically for children. To avoid people altogether, Freddy decided it was best to just disappear into the forest, and he did. He lived there for so long, people would go years at a time without seeing him. But when they would see him, people claimed his fingernails grew grotesquely long, curling and hardening, and eventually he would sharpen them into actual talons. Some claimed that the nails became his weapons, used to scare off anyone who disturbed his peace or trespassed in the woods around him. Kathy, you already got your hand on your face.
I hate everything about this.
Just imagine walking in the woods and seeing a man with long fingernail talons.
Yeah, this is ringing true so far. Antisocial, the fingernails keep people away.
Yeah, well, are you going to grow some, Chris? Is that what you're suggesting?
No.
Well, it's never made clear whether Freddy is, at this point with his long fingernails, a real man, or is he a spirit or some type of monster that's haunting the woods? But in all the retellings, the details that do stay consistent are that he violently protects the woods and attacks anyone who makes too much noise. The man appreciates his silence, which respect. I get it. Campers and counselors at Camp Karana will tell stories about children who wandered too far into the forest at night, children who Freddy attacks with his claws. If you were lucky, you would only get slashed once or twice, but most were much less fortunate because usually once he had you in his sights, you're done for. The good news though, there usually was a warning. You could tell when Freddy is coming because legend says that you hear him before you see him, and you hear fingernails as they drag along the rocks, the trees. If you're in a car in the woods waiting, just trying to be like, oh my God, can I see Freddy tonight? You hear sometimes the claws scratching the car as he slowly takes step and step closer to you. Sometimes camp counselors would even say that Freddy will scrape the very buildings they were housed in for the summer. That's kind of the rough legend of Freddy Fingernails. Now, there are some first and third hand stories with encounters that I want to share. But before we get into that, this legend took some like weird turns that I kind of want to talk a little bit about. And I'm going to be honest, it actually got really freaking confusing because while some say Freddy stalks the woods near Camp Karana, others don't even talk about woods at all. And they say that he actually haunts a local cemetery called the Elder Baloo Cemetery, which is also in Cumberland. Some say at night, if you walk the cemetery, you can see him there, disfigured, clawed hands. And if you, again, make too much noise, he hunts you down, scratches you to shreds. But it got me kind of wondering, like, why the discrepancy? Why are some people seeing him in the forest? Why are some people seeing him in the cemetery? Can a spirit, if that's what he is, can you be here, there, everywhere, all at once? Can a spirit be multiple places?
I mean, why not, right? You know, we talked a little bit about portals. Can they use portals to move around to different areas, right?
Okay. Maybe he's a portal. Maybe he's buried in the cemetery and he lived in the woods. And
that's what I was thinking. Maybe like if the spirits have connections to multiple places, like why wouldn't they be able to go to those places or to like haunt people they are connected to?
Okay. So maybe Freddy Fingernails is there. Maybe it's the same person just haunting two different locations.
Maybe.
Okay.
So far, this just sounds like basic 1990s parenting. You're not quiet. Freddy Fingernails will come get you.
Yeah. And if you even take it to the camp, maybe is it a story invented by the counselors? Make sure the campers aren't going out at night? Yeah, it could be. But the story gets weirder because as I started reading more and more and trying to like fact check a little bit about Freddy Fingernails, nearly every single version of his story, he's actually intimately tied to another Cumberland figure, a man known as Hotshot Charlie. And although Freddy Fingernails' legend doesn't have a ton of meat on the bones, Hotshot Charlie's does. I want to dive into Hotshot Charlie because I felt like I was being gaslit by Rhode Islanders a little bit. And what I mean is that like it got to the point where I couldn't tell the difference between Freddy Fingernails and Hotshot Charlie. And I was like, are these two different figures? Are they the same person? And it led me to an interesting theory that I didn't see written down in a legend, but I want to share his story and then toss the theory by you and get kind of your take onto it. All right. The legend claims that Hotshot Charlie was actually a man known as Charles Torrey, which is good. We got an official name. We love that in a story, right? Charles was a homesteader who lived near what is now Camp Karana in the woods. According to the story, Charlie lived in a small cabin with his wife and his daughters. The Torrey family was largely self-sufficient. They raised animals, they grew their own food, they harvested the local timber for firewood. By all accounts, they had everything they needed. Their biggest problem wasn't survival. They actually were very good at it from what I was able to read. Their biggest problem was the local kids. Apparently, bored children from town would allegedly harass the Torrey family for years. They let their cows loose, they'd tip their cows, they'd steal their crops, vandalize their land, just do dumb, bored kid shit that kids do. And eventually, Charlie had enough. He was done with this. He was done with this repeated children just coming and messing his stuff up. So what did he do? He got a shotgun. And Charlie didn't want to kill the kids. He wanted to scare them back, threaten them a little bit. Let's stay off my land. Leave me alone. So instead of loading the shotgun with bullets, he loaded it with rock salt. And he swore the next time those kids trespassed on his land, he was going to take his shotgun full of rock salt and just shoot it directly at them. Now, I'm not a rock salt scientist, so I just want those out there. But like, you know, rock salt, right? Like if you put that in a shotgun and packed it, it's not likely going to kill anyone. But It can break the skin a little bit, probably. If it hits you, it's going to pout you. Maybe like feel like a paintball.
Yeah, I think it will mess you up.
Yeah, it's going to hurt, right? And then also, if it does break the skin, it's salt.
Yes,
it's not only going to hurt, it's going to burn.
Salt in the wound,
Yeah. Eventually and predictably, as kids do, they came back. But this time, Charlie was ready. He grabbed the shotgun, he aimed it at the kids, and he fired over and over and over again, pelting the boys with salt, sending them screaming into the woods. Imagine that. That's probably pretty scary. Even though you're not actually getting hit by bullets, imagine hearing the blast of shotguns multiple times, feeling something hit you. You think someone's literally shooting at you, right? Honestly, kind of smart, Hotshot Charlie. Kind of smart.
I'm kind of on Hotshot Charlie's side at this point.
Yeah.
Damn kids, get off my lawn.
You're gonna be probably the whole time. Just wait. Okay. So victory was Charlie's, right? He did his thing. He felt relieved. He thought he was finally putting these problems in the past. There's no way these kids would ever come back to his property now, right? Right?
Oh, they came back with more.
Yeah. Well, Charlie was wrong. He did not get to take his victory lap. The kids were humiliated and furious, and they plotted revenge. A few days later, they returned to Charlie's cabin and set fire to a pile of hay or wood or something in his front yard. The kids apparently stood there and watched and laughed as everything started to catch fire. The fire ended up spreading out of control. Charlie was in the barn at the time, and he got the first scent of smoke, and immediately that got his attention. So he bolts to the front yard. But by the time he got there, his cabin had already caught flame, and the house was taking completely ablaze. Now, you might remember, Charlie didn't live alone.
Yeah, what happened to his wife and 2 daughters?
They were inside the house. Trying to save them, Charlie runs into this house that's completely burning down. But when he gets there, not only is it too late to save them, he's just getting burned head to toe trying to save his wife and daughters. So his family now is dead. His home is destroyed, but now he's completely disfigured from all the burns from these children.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger, right?
That does sound familiar, right? So it's said that from that moment on, Charlie withdrew completely from society. He stopped going into town, and he decided that he was going to live alone in the woods, and eventually he became a hermit. This kind of sounds like maybe the starting point
I was going to say, is this the origins of Freddy Fingernails? That's what I was going to ask.
There's no one ties it together in the legend. They just say, hey, they're intimately involved and connected.
Well, it sounds like one and the same. This is the beginning
I think
of
it's
how
like an evolution story kind of in a way, right?
He's got a backstory now, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does make sense. Now, some stories of Hotshot Charlie stop here, and that's just his story. Some others I found continue, and I want to just share this slightly longer continuation of the story. Charlie tried to press charges against the children responsible for the crime. It said that the case ended up going to court, but the kids were acquitted of the murders, the destruction of the property, and his disfiguration because the town determined it was a prank. They weren't trying to intentionally hurt them, and they let the kids off.
Yeah.
You can imagine that in front of an entire town in a courtroom, Charlie disfigured, losing his family, losing everything he owns, and then hearing they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
Imagine that emotional turmoil that he's probably feeling in that moment, right? So in that moment, he angrily declares that if the community will not serve justice, he will take justice for himself. And then he storms off out of the courtroom. But after that, he wasn't seen again for a long period of time. In fact, it was almost a year after his declaration that one of the first boys who started the fire didn't show up to school one day. Days later, he was found brutally murdered, slashed. The townsfolk, it wasn't long before they connected the dots. Hey, this little boy's the one who fucked with Charlie. Charlie said he was going to get revenge. His boy's dead.
Yep.
Yeah, we connected the dots. But they couldn't find him when they went out. He didn't have a home. He was living in the woods. He was living off the ground. And within a month, 2 more boys were discovered. Their throats ripped open, bodies torn apart, wounds made by some type of claw marks. But these injuries and the circumstances of how they found the bodies, they didn't match the clawing of any known animal of the time. Because even black bears, they're not just gonna slash you open and peace out, right? They're gonna, they got dinner. They're gonna consume some parts of it. Now with multiple children dying in this community, 3 now, and maybe they deserved it. I don't know. I'll leave that to y'all. But several of the townspeople decided to embark on a hunt of their own. They would figure out what type of animal or beast could cause such devastation and kill it. Or if it wasn't that and it truly was Charlie, they were going to find Charlie and they were going to get their justice. So within days, reports came out that someone claimed to finally find Charlie in a pretty predictable location. he was actually sneaking into the burned ruins of his old home.
Okay.
Apparently, they said that he built like a trap door in the cellar, and there was a little area that he could still get into, and that's where he was actually living. The witness who saw him go into the trap door decided to stay there and waited for hours. And then he finally saw Charlie emerge from this old ruined home. But when he came out, he was drenched in blood. Worse still, his fingernails had grown long, sharp, and terrifying, and they were no longer hands at all. They were weapons. Petrified by what he had seen, the witness runs back to the town, gathers the town people to ultimately return back to Charlie's home, where they end up finding him. And the legend says they capture Charlie and hang him right there on the spot of his old home and left his body there to rot. That's apparently where the rumors start of Fingernail Freddy dragging through the woods and people starting to hear stories of that kind. That's the story of Hotshot Charlie. And I think it's in this story, with the burned, disfigured body, the murder of the children, the life of isolation driven by rage, that we can start to kind of see the parallels, as you pointed out, Chris, to the Freddy Krueger stories, right? But it's also here I have to ask a larger question. At some point, did Hotshot Charlie stop being a man? And did he kind of evolve and transform into Freddy Fingernails, or Fingernail Freddy, the killer? Are they the same person? Or are they two separate identities trying to cover the same type of legend in Cumberland, Rhode Island?
I think it sounds like the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, like Charlie is the start of how the legend of Freddy became.
I agree.
Yeah, which is actually much more interesting than the Freddy Krueger movies themselves. You have a backstory and you feel bad for the guy, right?
Yeah.
And then he commits these pretty horrific murders on children, but there's that part.
Yeah, the whole murdering children thing. But
yeah, there's that.
You do feel bad for him, right, though? Like, he lost his family, he lost everything he owned, his body's completely disfigured from the fire. So you do have some empathy. But I'm inclined to agree. Although the legends don't say these two people are the same, some legends say they work in tandem together. I think it's really the same story. And the same man who eventually was Hotshot Charlie, a good man, taking care of his family, and then the villain side of him comes out and he turns into Freddy Fingernails. Yeah. And that, to me, I think makes like a really cool story, and I don't know why they're not.
I think we've said that before in other episodes where, like, it's a legend, but we always kind of say that there's some truth or something where they come from. And I think this is like a perfect example of that.
And to that point, though, I actually found some of those first and third person encounters, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit of what I found here. So on foodforthedead.com, I found this quote from a former camper who attended Camp Karana, and it read, "Freddy was a guy that lived in the woods, and because he lived in the woods for so long, his nails grew really long, and he didn't like all the noise the campers made. So the counselors would say, don't make noise at night because Freddy Fingernail is going to come claw you with his fingers and his nails." It does sound like, Chris, to what you alluded to, maybe a threat by the counselors to keep the campers in line. A Reddit user, Lights in the Sky 20, shared this. "My dad is from Cumberland, and he's mentioned Freddy Fingernails to me. This would have been when he was 7 or 9 years old, so think late 60s to early 70s. He lived near Arnold Mills, which was a new development at the time, basically a filled-in swamp. During the day, he played in the nearby woods with other kids. He said it was probably adults who started the story because they wanted the kids to come home before dark. They would say, Freddy will go after the little boys and girls, and they would even tell us that some of the boys and girls went missing, and when they were found, they were all scratched up by Freddy's fingernails. My dad said there was never really a face or a description. It was more that Freddy was a boogeyman, a dark shadow with long figures who was always watching you if you didn't get home early enough." So again, you said parenting.
Just good parenting,
Just, that's how we parent. But the stories kept coming. It was actually pretty easy to find people being like, I remember this character. I remember growing up with this. I found hundreds of people being like, yep, I remember that. Facebook was littered with people being like, Freddy Fingernails, I look for him, man. Like in the woods. So I want to share a few more stories. I'm going to totally butcher this name, but this one was from another Redditor, Fama Rodelinda. And they responded, holy shit. I remember going to the YMCA in Cumberland when I was like 11 or 12 in the early 80s. And the kids were talking about Freddy Fingernails. They said he lived in the woods next to the field we were playing in and would just murder children. And everyone talked about it like it was real. I just love that response because I just love like being 12 and be like, yeah, I got
so good. Yeah.
Kids just get murdered all the time here in Cumberland. Oh God. And if they did, I'm so sorry. But it's funny to think about. I found another one. This is from the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group's message board. A poster named Bonnie who visited the alleged homestead or grounds to where Hotshot Charlie's house was. And that's right. Allegedly, you can find the very foundation of Charlie's home that burnt down, and you can find it behind the Sister of Mercy School in Cumberland. I actually found some videos, and there are burnt down charcoals, what looks like a very old foundation, rock foundation there. So that does exist. That's real, which I thought was kind of I can't say it's Hotshot Charlie's house that burned down.
It really is a structure.
There's a structure in those woods exactly where they said it all happened, which, I don't know, interesting note. But Bonnie wrote, I've hiked to the old foundation where Freddy and his family homesteaded, and I agree, the entire area is saturated with bad vibes. I took an entire roll of 35 millimeter film, and every picture looked overexposed. It was broad daylight, and no flash was used. My husband's digital camera got perfectly clear images of the charred stones. But while we were reviewing the footage, we suddenly heard a crystal clear voice behind us say, "Get off my land," in a low, menacing tone. We were completely alone, and neither of us will ever go back there. And I thought that was a really interesting story. I kind of liked it.
Just the fact that this homestead could have actually existed adds an interesting detail, not maybe credence to the story.
Yeah.
You have this horrific event. You have this guy who's trying to keep the campers out of his property, and it just kind of snowballs from there. And before you know it, you have a 8-movie franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's pretty cool. And I love that little kernels of truth that were showing, oh, maybe there is something here, right? Maybe this is real. I read hundreds of people who claimed to see it. And of those, I just grabbed 2 because they all sounded pretty similar. One said, I grew up in Cumberland and we definitely knew about Freddy Fingernails. Some of us heard scratching on the car's roof while hanging out with friends. Could have been branches, but I think it's Freddy. And another one said, we'd go out looking for Freddy and Hotshot Charlie on the weekends. Never saw anything, but countless times we could hear the claws scratching alongside. I don't know if it was rocks. I don't know if it was my own car, but we knew he was coming. We heard the stories and we always got the hell out of there. And there were so many that sounded exactly like that.
Just the fact that thousands of people remember this legend and, went out looking for it and continue to talk about it to this day.
Yeah.
That adds something kind of cool to this legend.
I love that they remember hearing it around campfires from their parents, from their friends, from older kids probably just trying to scare the shit out of them. And maybe that makes this whole legend real enough. If people believe it, that makes it real, right? But you know me, and I can't ever just stop there and accept that. So I had to go, is there any verifiable evidence? Is any of this true? So I have a couple claims I put together and I try to fact check it. The first one is Hotshot Charlie's name. We got an actual name, Charles Torrey. And you'd think that if we had a name and, 3 kids got murdered and Charlie's family got murdered, there's got to be some type of documentation out there, right? But I found nothing under that name, Charles Torrey. I did find a man did live in Rhode Island by the name Charles Torrey, but it was spelt differently. It was spelled Torrey, not I-E. This guy, though, lived in Rhode Island and throughout the entire Northeast and helped run the Underground Railroad. No connection to child murder, no burned homestead. So I'm going to keep him mostly out of the story, and we're going to keep him as a local hero who is helping, save guy. People. We like that.
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah. I'm here
so
for it.
Nothing I can find under the name Charlie Torrey, which boo.
Wah.
Boo. The second claim, the Homestead Foundation. So if you do in fact hike behind the Sisters of Mercy School, there are trails on the northwestern side of Diamond Hill Reservoir, and along them does in fact sit a foundation of an old home. The location fits. But after scouring the internet and local Cumberland historical records, I couldn't find any documented connection between this foundation and these legends or a man named Charlie or anything like that. However, I did find this. One message board poster claimed they visited the Cumberland Library and found direct historical proof that the murders were real, that the court records actually existed. But when asked to provide sources, he replied that he would need to find them and would dig them up. That was 8 years ago. They still have not been provided or dug up. But does that mean it's not real? I don't know. Does it mean we should take a road trip to Cumberland, Rhode Island Library and see for ourselves if there is any actual documentation that this is real?
Yes.
Absolutely. If it was real, would people talk about it more than the one random message on a board?
You would think.
On the internet?
Yeah, probably.
You'd think so. So I'm starting to feel like, probably not true. But we need to go fact check ourselves. So
we don't want to call him a liar without checking for ourselves.
Yeah. So all of a sudden we're starting to get here and I'm like, damn, no factual leads that I can say that Freddy Fingernails and Hotshot Charlie are real.
I feel like we're about to take a turn.
We are. So with no solid factual leads, the least we can do is admit this. the legend fits Freddy Krueger pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
It fits so good. A burned man, claw-like fingernails, murder of children. Dare I say it fits like a glove?
Well done, sir.
But Wes Craven, the writer, creator, director of Nightmare on Elm Street, says that this was not the inspiration for his film. According to Craven, Freddy Krueger was inspired by a real medical condition called SUNDS, S-U-N-D-S, sudden, unexplained, nocturnal death syndrome. So I had to look into that.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, dozens of Hmong refugees who had escaped the Cambodian genocide began dying in their sleep after resettling in the United States.
Oh, I've heard about
this. And that's real.
Yeah.
Real people dying, real deaths in their sleep. This isn't a legend. These are facts. Many Hmong men, mostly in their 20s and 30s, were terrified to fall asleep, convinced that they'd die if they did because there were many people exactly like them dying. In fact, an LA Times article recounts one individual who fought sleep for days, and it quotes, "When he finally fell asleep, his family thought the crisis was over. Then they heard screams in the middle of the night. By the time they reached him, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare." So real people dying in their sleep.
And that was Wes Craven's inspiration?
That's what inspired Freddy Krueger. Now, I did a little more digging. I don't have this written down, so I'm winging this here. Apparently, in the Hmong beliefs, they do have to give offerings to individuals before they go to sleep, and that's how you keep the bad vibes away. And a lot of people back in Cambodia and Laos, where these people are from, said the people in America are dying because they stopped doing their rituals and their sacrifice and didn't bring their, spiritual elements with them here in the United States. And it was actually demons coming to kill them in their sleep. And that's what it was, is because they broke their traditions that they had. But even crazier, SUNDS, that disease, remains unexplainable today. They still don't know why people are dying in the middle of their sleep. So it's just this one random southeastern population that was affected by this, who had just gone through a genocide, repopulated and removed to the United States to escape torment that they're facing, and then just started dying in their sleep.
You got to think it's something genetic about that specific population, or something to do with trauma and the way the brain processes trauma.
You're married a smart man, Kathy. You married a very smart man, because the leading idea for what could have caused it is that there is a genetic predisposition for Southeastern Asians that cause fatal heart arrhythmias. And they actually found something unique in their genetic code. And apparently under extreme stress and duress, which I think a genocide
PTSD,
kind of checks the mark, it can cause and trigger the arrhythmia. And this kind of tracks. So could it have been the stress of the genocide? They finally escape it. They have that moment of calm. You know how I just went on vacation and my body got sick for the first time in a year. And I think it was just my body being oh, I can relax and digest, everything that's been going on. I think maybe it was something like that was happening to them.
That makes a lot of sense. They didn't need a medical school. They just could have called me.
I could have solved that. I love it. Even this connection to Freddy Krueger, unfortunately, to Freddy Fingernails and Hot Shot Charlie, is false, at least if you ask Wes Craven. What is interesting, though, is the legends of Freddy Fingernail and Hot Shot Charlie predate the Freddy Krueger series. So, in the words of Dumb and Dumber, you're saying there's a chance. Maybe he did catch a glimpse of this. I have to admit, though, I love this story. I love legends like this. I think they're so cool because I think it's just these stories are transcending time and they're bringing people together and they're scaring the shit out of people. And even to this day in Cumberland, Rhode Island, kids will talk about Fingernail Freddy. And some will even claim that if you go out looking for him and you cut your engine at night and you're sitting there outside of the cemetery or outside the woods, you might hear some claws being dragged as he's coming step by step for you.
See, I think the reason this story has been retold and is so iconic and is caught on is Fingernails is something so primal and predatory about it. And to think that there's somebody out in the woods that could kill me with their fingernails, that's just second level of terror.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think at the end of the day, Chris, I think you hit the nail on the head within 30 seconds.
I'm not even sure what to say.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you did. I think you hit it. I think this is just parents.
Just good parenting.
Yeah. Just trying to scare their kids and camp counselors trying to keep, these rowdy kids in line throughout the summer,
That's kind of cool though when you think about it, right? So these stories, that were told just to keep kids in line kind of took a life of their own and became legend and myth and lore. And who knows what those stories will look like in 100 years if they stuck around, right?
Yeah, right. Think of it right now. They say these stories like started in the 1950s roughly. Yeah. And doing my research, I can't tell if Hot Shot Charlie and Freddy Fingernails are the same person. Like I have my theory that they are. It sounds like the evolution of a man, but just in 70 years, you can't even make sense of what's what. What is going to happen in 100
We've
years.
covered legends and lores and myths from the 1600s. And by the time we're covering them today, they've become so diluted that we don't know exactly what they are. That's cool. That's just a really cool New England thing. That we come up with all these myths and legends and retelling of the story, and they grow and change over time. And, oh, look, there's a actual foundation. This is now connected to the story forever.
It's like they're adding pieces to it to make it more real or more true, which I love. I don't know. It's so cool. Well, Kathy, Chris, that is my story on Freddy Fingernails, Hot Shot Charlie. We should probably, before we wrap, check in on Kathy. Kathy, how are we doing?
I'm doing okay. Yeah. I'm glad that we ended on a different note.
Didn't get to scare you too bad.
I wasn't too scared.
Yeah.
No. It was good. It was a great story, though. You know, the idea that it came from potentially something maybe real, and then the whole evolution of it. And I think that there's something that is so cool about the idea of, like, I mean, you know, we don't want to like terrorize and give our kids trauma, but there's something about that, right? That like it kind of teaches kids that like there are scary things out there, but also gives kids that like drive to go out into the woods and be curious and like, are you going to go try to seek it out, or are you just going to, you know, stay and not do it? It's just that kind of wonder of being a kid in those times that I don't think we really have that today.
And it goes to the importance of storytelling in our culture and the way that we learn. If I tell a kid, be careful, there's dangerous people out there, they're like, yeah, okay. But if I tell you about this actual guy and how he's going to hurt you
give him
and
an identity,
give him an identity and a backstory, and then it sticks, right? Now I'm more cautious as I'm walking through the woods.
Yeah.
The only thing I need to add is 3, 4, he's at your door.
5, 6, grab your crucifix. Okay, well, as she cringes. Well, Kathy, Chris, I hope you enjoyed the story. And gang, we hope you did as well. If you did, go ahead and visit our Instagram. That is at Weirder After Dark, where you can go ahead and find some images. I'll make sure that we post some pictures of the foundation that exists around the reservoir, as well as some other images there as well. And it's not just Instagram. We are out there building some communities. If you haven't yet visited our Reddit or our Facebook page, again, at Weirder After Dark, all I got to ask is, what are you doing? What are you wasting for? There's multiples, hundreds of peoples over there connecting with us. Join the crew, join the gang. Come talk to us and other individuals who love these episodes just like you. And if you are from New England and you've got some weird New England stories out there, have you seen Freddy Krueger in your dreams? Have you seen Freddy Fingernails? How does he wipe his ass? If you have the answer to that question.
His left hand.
That's right. It's only one hand. Go ahead and send that to us at thegang@weirderafterdark.com, and we will share one of your weird New England stories in an upcoming Listener Tales episode. And if you are loving this shit, if you are absolutely in love with the shit, the best thing that you can do is leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. And don't forget, it always gets a little weirder after dark.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.